This is Chris Langan. Now, you might object, this is a drawing of Chris Langan, but as you'll learn, our maps of reality, the symbols and language we use to describe and wrap our heads around the universe we live in, correspond directly to reality itself. So, this is Chris Langan. But who is Chris Langan? Chris Langan, who some have called a real-life Good Will Hunting,
my boy's wicked smart,
is a blue-collar cosmologist who was a bar bouncer on Long Island in the 1980s. Langan's IQ is measured at 195 to 210, and as though that wasn't enough, can bench press a whopping 500 pounds. But most importantly, Chris is the author of the Cognitive Theoretic Model of the Universe, or CTMU, a profoundly original theory of everything which purports to be the absolute truth about reality. Definitions are helpful. What is reality? Well, I don't know, but whatever it is, surely it must consist of reality. At the very least, it does not consist of non-reality, because this would be a contradiction. This turns out to be the first and most fundamental principle of the CTMU, the reality principle. Reality consists of reality, or, more technically, reality consists of all and only that which is real. It's so basic, so fundamental. It's a tautology, like an apple is an apple, or x equals x. It cannot be broken, and yet in its simplicity lies its power. We now have a logically defined reality which we can hold apart from non-reality. Further, because reality cannot be defined by anything external to it, it must be self-creating and self-explanatory. And also, because reality consists of only reality, it is like a fractal. Its structure repeats at all levels. The CTMU therefore breaks reality into 3 levels. The global operator descriptor of reality, which is the self behind the whole system, the identity of reality in Langan's terms. Observer participants, conscious agents who are immersed in reality and capable of structuring it through mind and will, and tertiary syntactors, the actual stuff of reality, which provides the material to create the universe. The observer participants of reality are secondary images of the God, who exist as sensor controllers to fortify and renew the identity of reality as a whole, so that it's not just formless potential, an undifferentiated blob of nothingness. The reality principle shows that anything which reality consists of, its external aspect, is just an expression of what it already is, called its internal aspect. It is therefore represented as an equation, reality int equals realityxt, or alternatively, by placing everything within reality itself, and thus making reality int and reality xt 2 aspects of the same system, we arrive at a description of reality as a self-simulating identity operator, r equals r int r xt. We can describe reality as akin to a computer simulation with its internal aspect as a programming domain, a world of design and potential which cannot be seen by the eye, and its external aspect being a display domain, the corporeal world which we can see and taste and touch. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
How do you like them apples?
The idea that reality is a simulation sounds absurd, as reality and simulation have nearly opposite meanings. One is real and the other is fake. All that we mean to say is that reality we can directly perceive is a simulation of reality's deep structure. It's all real. Remember, reality is an identity operator. Reality creates a self-simulation to extend its being into a created world, and thus to fortify and renew its identity. It creates itself and then attributes existence to its own identity. It's a closed loop which allows for its coherent self-creation and self-explanation. One might be tempted to view the universe as one big computer, as is now fashionable in digital physics and in popular culture. Yet, this would be a mistake. According to the reality principle, in order for reality to be computative, it must also be its own computer. Specifically, it must be a kind of proto-computer, which brings itself and its software, its design and potential, into existence in coupling with one another. In so doing, it obviously becomes more than just a computer. Where a language is anything fed into a computer, if reality is a computer simulation, it is also a language. Specifically, it is a self-processing, self-configuring language, SCSPL, with its language and hardware emerging as one. The SCSPL does not only describe reality, it creates the reality it describes. Because it is both the language and the object it describes, going beyond the typical definition of either language or object, the CTMU is called a metalinguistic meta-object. Because, by the reality principle, reality and its communication are self-contained, reality can be characterized as a language which talks to itself, about itself, for its own purposes. Specifically, according to the metaphysical ontology principle, MAP, it is a closed descriptive manifold whose self-explanation is equivalent to its creation. This language is related to human languages in that our minds and our descriptions of reality are secondary images of the mind of reality and its self-description. It is this language which is responsible for reality's structure and evolution, as well as its identity. In order to create the marvelous complexity of space-time, reality's inner structure and its meta-language must be of the kind of a conscious, creative intelligence which is able to create and explain itself and refine itself from nothing. Obviously, the powers of association and analogy needed for linguistic processing is that of a mind. Therefore, since reality can be described as a meta-language, it can also be considered a universal and general mind, with its self-recognition representing a kind of generalized cognition. It is for this reason that the CTMU is called the cognitive theoretic model of the universe, because it dissolves the distinction between our theories about reality, reality itself, and the models between them by situating both the mind of the God and its secondary images in a generalized cognition with a direct correspondence between the two and therefore their theories in the universe. It is this generalized cognition of which reality consists of all levels. Therefore, the fundamental unit of reality is called infocognition, a dual-aspect substance consisting of both information and the mind which processes it, which regresses to an even more basic, one-aspect substance called telesis. Telesis is the fundamental stuff of reality, formless, infinite, expansive potential from which the universe emerges. Telesis is bound by a process of telic recursion, which actualizes the universe through self-replication and self-selection to maximize generalized utility over time. Utility is something which is valuable to an individual. What is valuable to reality? Just like the reality principle suggests, the answer is in the question. Reality is trying to express reality, fortify and renew its own identity. Therefore, the purpose of the universe is reality's self-identification. Telic recursion is how order emerges from primordial chaos. It creates true and good order within the universe through cross-definition of laws and states, and actualizes a timeline which leads to magnificent complexity over time. Galaxies, star systems, biological life. Telic recursion also distributes the process of creation over time, meaning that creation is not a spent and discarded moment from the ancient history of the cosmos, but rather the ongoing process of the unfolding teleology of the Creator. Like Jewish philosopher Moses Maimonides says, it is the Creator's will to give existence to everything whose existence is possible, because existence is undoubtedly good. Or, as Langan put even more succinctly, existence everywhere is the will to exist. In the words of Israeli author Yossi Klein Halevi, faith shares an essential worldview. The unseen is ultimately more real than the material, that this world is not a random construct, but an expression, however veiled, of a purposeful creation, that we are not primarily bodies, but souls, rooted in oneness. Visit hology.net for a further explication of basic CTMU principles, CTMU Radio for official CTMU YouTube content, and CTMU.net to read Chris Langan's CTMU paper, The Cognitive Theoretic Model of the Universe, A New Kind of Reality Theory, and Chris Langan's newsletter, Ultimate Reality, on Substack. Leave any questions or curiosities in the comments sections. I will do my best to respond to every single one. Let the light shine forth in the darkness. May the peace of our Father in heaven be upon you. Like and subscribe. Peace.